Well, greetings one and all, and welcome back to another video here with your host Andrew. Today you join me for a collection update which really hones into an area of interest of mine, and that is Urushi lacquer. So that is the purpose of today's video. So without further ado, let's get on with this. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, before I show you what's in this pen wrap, I'm just going to give you a little bit of context to why I got into collecting Urushi-based fountain pens. Now, if this doesn't interest you whatsoever and you just want to see the pens, feel free to skip this section. I have got timestamps available in this video, and you can skip to any pen you would like to see. That will be provided in the description below, or you can just hover along the timeline on the actual video. So, without further ado, now let's talk about why I got into collecting Urushi-based fountain pens. Okay, so why Urushi? It started about a year and a half ago when I came across Tamanuri Studios, and I was browsing his YouTube channel, and there was something just prior which sort of struck out to me from Nakaya. I'd been looking at some of their Tamanuri finished pens, and there was just something about them which looked really fascinating. And upon doing a little bit of discovery, I stumbled on Michael from Tamanuri Studio, and he had done a few reviews, and I was completely enamored by them. And then he started doing and showing his techniques, and I just became further and further interested. And then I discovered people like Hiroko from Bokumondoh Studios, and from that point on, I was just completely swamped in this wonderful sort of rich history which celebrates thousands and thousands of years of Asian culture, originated in China, moved to Japan and various other countries in the Far East like Taiwan, Korea, Vietnam. And I found this sort of whole process absolutely riveting. And it really sort of aligned with my own personal interests of hand-produced items. Now, we do live in a day and age where automation is paramount, and you could probably go to a lot of these fountain pen companies and their pens are coming off a production line with no real human intervention. That's not true to say for every single manufacturer out there, but for a good majority of mass manufactured pens, that is true. And there's nothing wrong with it. I've got a number of pens myself. But I feel that when I wanted to specialise my collection on something specific, I wanted to concentrate it on something which really celebrated the wonderful gift we have of our hand and our imagination. And that's really where Urushi really came into its own strength. I'm not belittling any other sort of company out there or taking a snobbish attitude. I'm not. But this is just from my own personal interest. Before we get on to today's video, I just want to highlight a couple of other people which I feel that you do need to go and check out. You've got Penteo Pens, who is producing absolutely fantastic fountain pens, and you've also got Hiroko as well, which will customize your fountain pens as well. Both of those you may have heard of before. Certainly Hiroko is quite famous within the fountain pen community, and actually one of her pen wraps here, which is done I think with one of her cousins. But anyway, I'm going to show you the pens in my pen wrap before I rabbit on too much more. Right, ladies and gentlemen, so what I'm going to be doing, I'm going to give you some sort of writing examples and drawing examples as I use these pens. It's not going to be a full writing sample, but it will give you some approximation of what these pens are like. So I'm going to go over these pens relatively briefly because I do have full reviews of them, but I'll just try and give them to you in an order of when I purchased them. Now, the first pen which I bought was this pen, which was the Nakaya Piccolo Cigar in Midori Tamanuri. Again, links to the reviews in the description below. Now, this pen came to me was about 1.75 years ago now, and I've never stopped using it since. It's always been in a full rotation of fountain pens, and I use it on a weekly basis, not daily. I don't take it into work really very often, but it's such a wonderful writer. and the actual lightness of the pen, the application of the urushi on here is just absolutely sublime. You know, you can't beat this really. It's just a sheer elegant pen, very understated, and this Midori Tamanuri finish is superb. Now, interestingly, when I came to actually purchase my first Urushi fountain pen, I'd been watching some of Michael's videos from Tamanuri Studios, and he basically was recommending Nakaya on his channels because he had bought quite a few of them himself, and they really are just superb pens. You know, you've got cartridge converter in here, very easy to maintain. You can quite easily flush out the pens very quickly and change your colours very quickly as well. We've got a 14 karat gold nib on here, fine, pencil-like feedback. It writes really beautifully, and it lets you know you're on the page as opposed to, say, like the Namiki, which is a lot smoother. So just an absolutely fantastic pen. Now, when I bought this pen, I'll go back to my story because I did sort of go off piste a little bit there, but I've been looking at these pens, and lo and behold, I saw this for £450 on Iguana sale, and I thought, okay, that seems pretty good, because the desk pens were retailing about £550 or £495, £550 thereabouts, depending on finish. I think the Tamanuri finish was like about 500 or something like that. But I thought this one, because the shape of this appealed to me more. But at the time, I didn't realise what such a good price it was. And it wasn't until having spoken to a friend in Denmark who proclaimed that I'd got myself a deal of the century that I really truly realised it when I went to Nakaya's website and saw the list price there. I was thinking, there's no way that this pen could be at this price. Well, it just so happened to transpire that Iguana sale had made a mistake on their pricing. So yeah, this was the steal of the century, this was. I did contact Iguana sale. I said, you know, what I paid for it. They said, yeah, no, that was our fault. We put it on at the wrong price. And they honoured it. So I thought that was absolutely fantastic. But yeah, I love the urushi on here, you know, with the Tamanuri effect on all the accented edges. It's just beautiful. I love the fact that they go the extra mile and they do it on the actual threads as well. It really is an absolutely superb pen. Okay, next up in the collection, we've got the Nuri finish from Michael at Tamanuri Studios, and this is on a Wet n Wise Comfort. Flat tops on both ends and quite a long straight pen. Something a little bit different from the rest of the pens in my collection. And again, we've got layers of urushi on here, which are sanded down to reveal layers underneath, and it's just absolutely beautiful. I love the freeform, carefree nature of the application on here, yet it still just retains its beautiful gloss and brilliance. I've used this pen for quite a lot of my artwork. The nib on here is a stainless steel nib made by Bock. Just going to have to polish this section because there's a little bit of green ink on there. I've just recently washed out the pen, so there isn't actually, I don't think I've got a cartridge in this one. No, I haven't got a cartridge. So there won't be any actual writing sample from this pen today, but again, I do have a full review on this pen, and you can see this one in action. So do go and check that out. But yeah, really beautiful. And there were certainly a few pens from Michael which I really wanted at the same time. I just couldn't afford them. Anything with Radon in there just really increased the price, which is understandable because it just takes a lot longer to apply the lacquer to bring it up to a really smooth finish. So I can completely understand the price and justification for that. Interestingly, Michael does do opal on his fountain pens as well, which isn't something which you commonly see either. But really beautiful pen, fantastic techniques with the aluminium powder, very subtly done it in the background. And the variance of blues on here is just superb. So that leads me onto the next pen. This pen here is an Eboya Hakobune, and it is done from, produced by Hiroko from Bokumondoh Studios. Now, Hiroko has been doing urushi for years and years and years, and certainly built up quite a reputation on Instagram and various social media platforms and forums for her incredible work, and I have to say it is very, very good. It is a Hekeme Nuri finish, which is essentially the layers of lacquer being applied with a Hekeme brush, and then aluminium powder sprinkled on top, and then it's built up and built up, and then layers of black put on top, and then it's sanded down and then polished. Now, the reason why the aluminium powder is appearing more gold is because Urushi is a brown lacquer, essentially, and that tints the silver to make it look gold. Over time, that will actually lighten up and the pen will transform into silver. And this is one thing which I really love about Urushi, is that you can deliberately apply effects to the pen which will give the pen a story, essentially. You know, take like the Ascending Dragon with the Midori finish from Nakaya. You know, you can barely see it in person, and then over the years, as the pen lightens up, the brilliance of the dragon will appear. And I just think, you know, it's so symbolic of the actual technique in itself. There's a real sort of synergy between the actual relationship of the actual lacquer taking ages to actually build up, and then taking ages then to sort of, well, to reveal itself. I love that sort of, I just love that aspect. So anyway, back to this pen. On here we have got a Bock gold nib. Just need to clean the section a little bit. Got a little bit of ink on there. Bock nib. It's got a 14 karat gold nib on it. Not knob, honestly. 14 karat gold nib. And it's got a slight flex modification done by CY at Tokyo Station Pens. Unfortunately, the actual feed doesn't want to keep up with the pen, which is a bit of a shame, so I'm going to have to consider getting an ebonite feed for it. I will send the pen off to someone to get that fitted at some stage, because it's not something I'm really confident about doing myself. But I do love the pen. I love the fact that we've got the artist's signature down here, and in this light it just really comes to life. The sparkles of the aluminium powder, they're just like the chef's kiss. Absolutely wonderful. Okay, next up, two pens. Technically, I bought the Namiki first, but my Nakaya arrived first. So I'm going to go with this one next. So this one is the Nakaya Cigar Piccolo in the Enjoying the Moon Cat decoration. And we've got the moon on the top, we've got two cats on the bottom. We'll overlay the name of the techniques on here, which are being used, so you can read about those, because I forget the names off the top of my head. I do apologise. We've got a slight Tamanuri effect done to the pen, and you can see sort of on the accented edges, it's not as apparent as Tamanuri, but you can definitely see that there is some accenting going on. Okay, underneath we have got a 14 karat gold nib again, and this one's got a soft fine nib. Absolutely beautiful. And then we've got the cat paws on the section, and it's quite a nice shade of red. It's quite dark, but I feel that over time, and it does say on the Nakaya website, things like the moon will brighten up, and so will the cats against the background. So again, another transformational pen. So absolutely superb. Beautiful raised technique here on the cats, and I just love the simplicity of the design. I think there's a certain elegance to this pen. Okay, we are now moving on to the Namiki Yukari herb decoration, and this was the next pen which I'd purchased prior to the Nakaya, but this one took a lot longer to come to me because of the collaboration of what I'd done with Alicia. So yeah, I mean, what can I say about this pen? I will do a comparison between Namiki and Nakaya, so I will talk about that in more detail down the line. But this is a much more traditional pen than that of what is completely different sort of maquillé techniques. This one is what I would call more true maquillé. Nakaya do it, but you also pay quite a lot for that privilege as well. But I love this. You've got Radon in between, you've got these fantastic flowers on here which adorn the actual barrel and the cap. And I just love writing with this pen. The ink in here, which I've got, is Robert Oster Peach, and it's a peach to write with, forgive the pun. 18 karat gold nib, and it's just absolutely mind-boggling the detail in which the artisans go through to actually paint the detail on here. The Kokukai group really have outdone themselves on this series of pen, and I do really want to get myself some more Namikis in the future, so look out for that. And that really brings it to the end of today's video. Just one sort of item I wanted to highlight is that if you aren't aware of pensharing.com, do go and check it out. John Rabbit on there is the owner of pensharing.com, and if you want to try out a fountain pen before you buy it, not all of them are covered on there, but there are certain interesting brands like Nakaya, plenty of Mont Blancs on there, and some other pens. So if you want to try out your pen before you buy it, especially on some of like the more expensive pens, like the Nakayas, there's a Nakaya on there which you can try, which is a Decapod twist, which I'm going to potentially hire at some stage. And yeah, it's a really good looking service. You do take full ownership of the actual pen in terms of covering any costs if you were to break it, but I'm going to talk about that more in another video. So that leaves it for today. I hope you've enjoyed today's video, and I shall see you next week. Till then, stay safe and goodbye for now.